Look here. यहाँ देखो. Look here. बात करने का समय. Talking time. बात करने का समय. Talking
English
time.
versus Advanced English.
जल्दी खोलो.
How are
Open
you?
Fast.
How's it
जल्दी
going?
खोलो. Open fast.
Let's meet today.
क्या करें?
Let's catch up today.
What to do? क्या करें?
I'm very hungry.
What to do?
I'm starving.
बाहर आओ. Come out.
I'm very busy.
बाहर आओ.
I'm swamped.
Come out.
I'm very tired.
क्या आप तैयार हैं?
I am exhausted.
Are you ready? क्या
I'm
आप
very happy.
तैयार हैं? Are you ready?
I'm over the moon.
Sorry, I fell asleep.
From where
Sorry,
to
I nodded off.
here? कहाँ से यहाँ
It is
तक?
very cold outside.
From where to here?
It is freezing outside.
बहुत अच्छा. Well done.
Leave me alone.
बहुत अच्छा.
Give me a break.
Well done.
Keep it a
कोई नहीं
secret.
रोक सकता.
Keep
Nobody
it
can
under
stop.
wraps.
कोई नहीं रोक सकता.
Good luck.
Nobody can stop.
Break a leg.
कल तुम कहाँ थे? Where were you yesterday? कल तुम कहाँ थे? Where were you yesterday? आप क्या कर
Once
रहे हो?
upon a time,
What are you
nestled
doing?
on a hillside just outside the city,
आप क्या
stood a
कर रहे
small,
हो?
rustic cottage.
What are you doing?
It was a simple dwelling, constructed of
तुमसे
stone
प्यार
and
है.
surrounded by a
I
weathered
love you.
wooden fence.
मुझे तुमसे प्यार
Within
है.
its cozy walls resided a
love you.
loving couple. This
कहीं
couple
मत
cherished
जाओ.
a single
Don't go
fervent
anywhere.
dream: to have a beautiful
कहीं मत
daughter
जाओ.
to nurture
Don't
and
go
cherish.
anywhere.
Despite their deep love for each
मुझे
other,
अपना काम
they
करने
harbored a
दो.
lingering
Let me
doubt.
do my work.
Would they be worthy
मुझे अपना
parents?
काम करने दो. Let
Husband
me
and
do my
wife
work.
living in a hut. Husband and wife living in a
तुम
hut
किस बारे में
upstairs.
बात कर रहे हो?
Behind the
What are you
hut,
talking
a
about?
small window overlooked a
तुम
breathtaking
किस बारे में
vista.
बात कर रहे हो?
Below,
What are you
a
talking
magnificent
about?
garden stretched out. A vibrant
मैं
tapestry of
स्पष्टीकरण
colors.
नहीं देना चाहता. I don't want
Within
to
this
explain.
enchanting space, a remarkable
मैं
plant
स्पष्टीकरण नहीं
flourished.
देना चाहता.
Rapunzel.
I don't want to explain.
Its leaves, large and emerald green, were not only
तैयार हो जाओ.
beautiful but also
Get
incredibly
ready.
delicious.
तैयार हो
This
जाओ.
idyllic garden,
Get
however, was
ready.
a source of both wonder and dread. It was enclosed by a towering wall and belonged to the most wicked and powerful witch the world had ever known.
Little Red Riding Hood, a beautiful fairy tale for kids. Welcome, friends. Once upon a time there lived a little country girl, the prettiest creature who was ever seen. Her mother had a little Red Riding Hood made for her. Everybody called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Go, my dear, and see how your grandmother is doing, for I hear she has been very ill." Little Red Riding Hood set out immediately. As she was going through the wood, she met with a wolf. He asked her where she was going. "I am going to see my grandmother." "Does she live far off?" said the wolf. "It is beyond that mill you see there." It was not long before the wolf arrived at the old woman's house. He knocked at the door. Tap, tap, tap. "Who's there?" "Your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf, faking her voice. The good grandmother called out, "Pull the string, and the latch will go up." The wolf pulled the string, and the door opened, and then he immediately fell upon the good woman, and ate her up in a moment. He then shut the door and got into the grandmother's bed, expecting Little Red Riding Hood, who came some time afterwards and knocked at the door. Tap, tap, tap. "Who's there?"
The stars look
"It is
magical
your
tonight.
grandchild, Little
आज
Red
रात
Riding
तारे
Hood."
जादुई लग रहे
The
हैं.
wolf cried out, "Pull the
The
string,
moon
and
is
the latch
shining
will go
so
up."
bright tonight.
Little Red
आज
Riding
रात
Hood pulled
चांद
the string,
बहुत तेज
and the
चमक
door
रहा
opened.
है.
Big bad
Have you
wolf in
ever
Grandma's
wished on a
bed.
shooting star?
"Grandmother,
क्या
what
तुमने
big
कभी
arms you
टूटते
have.
तारे पर विश किया
All
है?
the better to hug you with, my
Night
dear."
makes me feel
"Grandmother,
creative.
what big ears you
रात
have.
को मुझे कुछ नया
All the
करने
better
का
to
मन
hear you
करता
with,
है.
my child."
Sometimes
"Grandmother,
dreams feel
what big
so
eyes you
real.
have.
कभी-कभी
All
सपने
the better to see
इतने
you
असली
with,
लगते
my
हैं.
child."
Let's share
"Grandmother,
our
what big
wildest
teeth you have
dreams.
got.
चलो
All the
अपने
better to
सबसे
eat you up
अजीब
with."
सपने शेयर करें.
Fortunately, a
The
hunter was
moonlight
passing near by
makes
the hut.
everything look
He heard
different.
the wolf and
चांदनी
recognized
में
him right
सब
away.
कुछ अलग लगता है.
He ran over to the
Do
window.
you like staying up
He took a
late
good
or
aim,
sleeping
and that
early?
was the end of the wolf.
तुम्हें देर तक जागना पसंद है या जल्दी सोना?
Beauty with a thorn, a very beautiful story for kids. Welcome, friends. Once upon a time, in a beautiful garden, there was a lovely little rose named Rosie. Rosie was the prettiest flower in the whole garden. Her petals were a delicate shade of pink, and her fragrance was sweet and enchanting. Everyone in the garden admired Rosie's beauty. The bees buzzed around her, telling her how lovely she was. The butterflies fluttered their wings, whispering sweet compliments in her ear. Even the old oak tree, with his gnarled branches and deep roots, couldn't help but smile when he saw Rosie. All the compliments made Rosie feel very proud. She held her head high and strutted around the garden, thinking she was the most important flower of all. She didn't pay much attention to the other flowers, who were also beautiful in their own way. One day, Rosie noticed that the other flowers were looking sad and lonely. She wondered why they were so upset. Then she realized that it was because she had been so proud and hadn't been very friendly to them. Rosie felt very sorry for her behavior. She knew she had been wrong to act so proud. She decided to apologize to the other flowers. Rosie went up to the daisies and said, "I'm sorry for being so proud. You are all beautiful flowers, and I shouldn't have treated you so badly." The daisies smiled and said, "It's okay, Rosie. We forgive you." Rosie also apologized to the tulips, the lilies, and all the other flowers in the garden. They all forgave her and welcomed her back into their friendship. From that day on, Rosie was a much kinder and more humble flower. She learned that it is important to be friends with everyone and to appreciate the beauty of all living things. And she never forgot how important it is to be humble and kind. Rosie becomes kind.
Cinderella's story. Once upon a time, there lived a poor servant girl named Cinderella. She was a patient, tender, and kind girl. His days were long and tiring, full of the most boring and worst housework. Washing the floor, washing the clothes, dusting the shelves, and cooking food were the tasks that she had to do during the day. Cinderella was forced to work from morning to evening without receiving a single penny. Cinderella's mother died when she was very young, and her father remarried soon after. But his new wife was a nasty woman. She had 2 daughters from her previous marriage who were as naughty as she was. They tormented poor Cinderella terribly every day. One day, when Cinderella was sweeping the ashes from the fireplace, they mocked her and sang, "Poor girl, poor girl." Her face is black, burnt, and ugly. Even though her stepmother and half-sisters had tormented her for years, she had never once disrespected them or tried to take revenge on them. She did not wish them ill at all. She patiently did the housework, hoping that when she grew up, she could run away and start the wonderful life she longed for. One day when Cinderella was working at home, someone knocked on the door. Cinderella hurriedly opened the door. Behind the door stood a short, fat man dressed in royal robes and holding an important scroll. The old man opened the scroll and began to read. "It is my duty to announce that the king has sent an official invitation to all the young ladies of this land to attend the important royal celebration in the palace." Hearing this, Cinderella's stepsisters pushed her to a corner and stood in front of the fat man. The man continued to read. "His Highness the Crown Prince is looking for a suitable lady for marriage. He wants to meet all the girls of this land to find true love. Please come to the palace on Saturday at 8 p.m. The little man turned, mounted his horse, and galloped off. 2 knights also followed him closely. The half-sisters closed the door and gave a loud shout of joy. Cinderella's stepmother entered. She said patiently, "What is the reason for all this happiness?" "Oh, Mom, we've been invited to the royal party, and I'm sure one of us will be chosen as the new princess." The stepmother replied with a mocking smile. "Of course you do. What prince wouldn't want to marry my sweet and precious children?" Cinderella was desperately trying to quiet him down, because she knew in her heart that any prince would stepmother turned to Cinderella and shouted, "Why did you stop at lunch? Prepare the clothes." Cinderella nodded and said, "Yes, Mom." Cinderella wanted more than anything to go to the royal party, but she did not dare to ask permission from the wicked stepmother because she knew that the wicked stepmother would not give her this permission. So she busied herself with housework and, of course, preparing her half-sister's dresses. The evening of the royal feast arrived. A magnificent horse-drawn carriage pulled up to the front door of the house, and the half-sisters, dressed in their hand-embroidered dresses, entered the carriage with much pomp and show. Cinderella looked at them with great sadness inside. She said to herself, "If I could only have one wish for the rest of my life, it would be to attend a royal party and get away from the dreaded and boring housework for just one night." Suddenly, a great light appeared in the sky. A small fairy appeared in front of Cinderella, holding a small fairy said, "Your wish will come true?" Cinderella asked in surprise. "What?" "I will fulfill your wish, because I am your fairy godmother." "Oh, how much you have suffered in silence all these years. You have a kind soul. A kind and patient young lady," Cinderella explained happily. "Oh, I can't believe it." But suddenly a frown appeared on her face. "But I'm not ready, fairy godmother. My clothes are cut and my shoes are torn. I can't be in the palace like this," fairy godmother said with a smile. "Don't worry, Cinderella. All I need to make your wish come true is a pumpkin, a rat, 2 mice, and 4 grasshoppers." Cinderella looked very confused. "So hurry up. Hurry up." Cinderella ran and prepared everything that the fairy godmother said. First, Cinderella went to the garden and came back with a big and ripe pumpkin. The fairy godmother tapped it once with her wand, and in an instant the pumpkin turned into a magnificent golden carriage. Then Cinderella returned a mouse from the mousetrap in the kitchen. Fairy godmother said, "Thank you, dear. Now if you don't mind putting them on the carriage seat for me." Cinderella quickly did this. The fairy waved her wand again. The 2 mice that Cinderella found in the barn turned into 2 servants in classy clothes. The 4 grasshoppers turned into 4 magnificent white horses, said the fairy godmother. "And now for the final magic." And she hit Cinderella on the shoulder with her wand. A spark rose. The old clothes she was wearing a moment ago suddenly changed. Cinderella sparkled in a
मैं तैयार
magical,
हूँ.
sparkly
I'm
gown
ready.
fit for a princess. Cinderella
जल्दी करो,
looked at her
Hurry up.
He was wearing a pair of
मुझे
very
देर हो रही है.
beautiful glass shoes that
I'm
glowed
getting
in the
late.
dark. Fairy godmother cried,
कोई बात नहीं.
"Amazing!
No problem.
But remember that at 12 o'clock at night, this magic
ध्यान
spell
से
will be
सुनो.
broken and your
Listen
clothes will
carefully.
turn to old clothes."
मुझे
Cinderella
समझ
said
नहीं
as she
आया.
kissed her
I
fairy
didn't
godmother
understand.
on the cheek. "I
कृपया
understand.
दोहराएं.
And thank
Please
you very
repeat.
much for the great favor you have done to me,
आपका
fairy
दिन
godmother."
शुभ हो. Have a nice day.
Cinderella entered the
क्या आप
carriage
मेरी
and
मदद
drove to
कर
the royal
सकते हैं?
Can
As
you
the
help me?
golden carriage passed through the
मुझे
palace
थोड़ा
gates,
समय दो.
Give me some
trumpets sounded
time.
And Cinderella was given a royal welcome. All the ladies were amazed at her magnificence.
सूरज
As she
चमक
entered
रहा
the
है.
ballroom, the prince
The
was
sun is
immediately
shining.
struck by Cinderella's
बहुत दयालु
elegance
है.
and the warmth of
She's
her
very
smile.
kind.
The prince
मुझे
approached.
किताबें पढ़ना
He bowed
पसंद
his
है.
head slowly
I love
and
reading
extended
books.
his hand and said,
वो रोज फुटबॉल खेलता है.
"Would you do me
He
the
plays
honor to
football
dance with
daily.
you?"
वे अच्छे दोस्त
Cinderella
हैं.
said with dignity.
They are good
and
friends.
sadness.
ये मेरा घर है.
"I will
This
be
is my
so
house.
happy."
बाहर
The
बारिश
orchestra
हो रही है.
started playing.
It is
Everyone
raining
in the
outside.
ballroom was staring at
हम
them.
जल्दी स्कूल जाते
Cinderella's
हैं.
stepsisters were
We
watching
go
the
to
scene, but Cinderella had changed so much that they didn't recognize her at all. Instead, they stared at Cinderella with envy. From that moment on, the prince only had eyes for Cinderella. They danced the whole night in each other's arms and enjoyed each other's company. Many hours left. 9 p.m. 10 p.m. 11 p.m. Suddenly, Cinderella looked at the clock. It was 1 minute to midnight, and he only had 1 minute to break the spell. He told the prince, "I must go." Without delay, she
She left the room, passed the guards, and passed through the palace. But when she got to the hall, she lost one of her blue shoes. But it was too late that she did not return to pick it up. Alas! The midnight alarm rang. Cinderella did not see any servants outside the palace. Only one pumpkin was not seen in the courtyard of the palace. Even mice, voles, and grasshoppers were not seen. And Cinderella, whose clothes were now the same old ones, had no choice but to run home in the darkness of the night. A few days passed. Cinderella was doing her daily routine, and her half-sisters tease and tease her as always. Everything was back to normal. The memory of the royal party faded into Cinderella's mind like a magical dream. Did the pumpkin really turn into a golden carriage? And the mouse to a carriage? Had she really danced the night away with the prince? She had doubts little by little. Suddenly there was a sound at the door. Cinderella calmly opened the door. In front of him stood the same little man. He said triumphantly, "His Excellency, the prince is present." The trumpet sounded. The prince got out of the carriage while holding a blue shoe. Cinderella's eyes widened, and she thought to herself, "So I wasn't dreaming." Suddenly, the prince's eyes fell on Cinderella for a moment. A second was enough for him to recognize Cinderella. Suddenly, there was a sound of running, and the stepsisters rushed to the door and threw Cinderella aside. The little man continued, "His Majesty is visiting every house in the land to find the true owner of this glass shoe. If the shoe is the size of any girl's foot, the prince will propose to her." The sisters shouted out of excitement. This shoe is not suitable, but he didn't want to tell them, so he gave them a chance to try the shoe. The first sister's foot was so big that half of it was forced to fit in the shoe. The younger sister had more luck. He was able to fit his foot in the shoe by force, but his feet became swollen and red. Then it was Cinderella's turn. The prince stepped forward with a knowing look, knelt down, and carefully placed the glass slipper on Cinderella's feet. The prince smiled and said, "Perfect size. There is no doubt that you, Cinderella, are my true love. I couldn't stop thinking about you. Will you honor me and marry me?" Cinderella looked at her clothes and then said to the prince, "I am only a poor servant." The prince replied, "You are a princess in my eyes. Our love is more valuable than all the treasures of the world." Cinderella happily accepted the prince's proposal, and soon after they were married. It wasn't long before they ruled as kings and queens and tried to provide prosperity and comfort to the people of their land. The Snow Queen Story. Once upon a time, in a kingdom where winter held sway, there lived a young boy named Kai and his best friend, a girl named Gerda. They lived in a quaint village surrounded by snowy landscapes and glistening ice. Kai and Gerda spent their days playing and dreaming together, their friendship as pure and warm as a winter's sun. However, the Snow Queen, an enchanting yet mysterious figure, cast her icy spell upon their village. One winter's day, as Kai gazed out of his window, he saw a snowflake shimmering in the air. Unbeknownst to him, it was the Snow Queen's magic, and it pierced his heart, filling him with a sense of emptiness and coldness. Kai's once kind and loving heart turned cold, and he became distant and cruel towards Gerda. One day, as they were playing together, Kai suddenly stood up and declared that he no longer cared for Gerda. "I don't like you or this friendship anymore. I would follow the Snow Queen to her icy palace." Then with a wicked smile, he vanished into the frozen wilderness. Heartbroken and worried, Gerda set out on a perilous journey to find her beloved friend. She braved the chilling winds and treacherous snow, seeking any clue that could lead her to Kai. Along her way, Gerda encountered kind-hearted people and helpful creatures who provided her with warmth, shelter, and guidance. As Gerda traveled, she learned of the Snow Queen's icy kingdom and her ability to freeze hearts. Determined to save Kai, Gerda faced countless obstacles with unwavering courage. She crossed frozen rivers, climbed towering mountains, and entered deep, dark forests, all in search of her friend. In her darkest hour, Gerda met a group of talking ravens whispering. The Snow Queen had taken a little boy to her palace. They guided Gerda through a blizzard, protecting her with their feathers until she reached the Snow Queen's domain. Entering the palace, Gerda found Kai sitting at a frozen throne, a lifeless expression on his face. Overwhelmed with love and sorrow, she embraced him and wept, her tears falling upon his frozen heart. Miraculously, her warm tears melted the ice encasing Kai's heart, and he came back to himself. Realizing his wrongdoings and the immense love Gerda had for him, Kai's heart thawed completely. They decided to escape from the Snow Queen's palace, but she wouldn't let them go without a fight. She conjured an icy storm, attempting to keep them captive forever. However, Gerda's unwavering love and determination prevailed. She remembered the power of friendship and shouted words of love, piercing through the Snow Queen's icy facade. The Queen's heart softened, and she released Kai and Gerda, allowing them to return home. Reunited with their loved ones, Kai and Gerda brought warmth and joy back to their village. The icy spell that had held the kingdom captive began to melt, and spring blossomed once again. The people rejoiced, celebrating the triumph of love and the resilience of the human spirit. From that day forward, Kai and Gerda remained inseparable, cherishing their friendship and the lessons they had learned. They understood that true love can conquer any icy grip, and that the warmth of the heart can melt even the coldest of winters. The Ugly Duckling Story. Once upon a time, in a peaceful farm nestled by a serene pond, a mother duck eagerly awaited the hatching of her eggs. She sat patiently on her nest, keeping her eggs warm and safe. One by one, the eggs cracked open and adorable little ducklings emerged, fluffy and yellow. But as the last egg finally cracked open, the mother duck was taken aback. Instead of a cute and fluffy duckling, an odd-looking creature greeted her eyes. The newcomer was larger than the others, with rough and gray feathers and an awkward appearance. The mother duck couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness, wondering how such an ugly duckling could be her own. As days passed, the other ducklings teased and taunted the ugly duckling for being different. They mocked its appearance, called it names, and excluded it from their games. The poor duckling felt heartbroken and lonely, yearning for acceptance and love. Unable to bear the pain any longer, the ugly duckling decided to leave the farm in search of a place where it would be accepted for who it truly was. It embarked on a journey, braving the unknown and facing various challenges along the way. During its travels, the ugly duckling encountered different animals. Each time, it hoped to find companionship and acceptance, but was met with rejection. The small creature faced hardships in the harsh winter, barely finding shelter and food to survive. Finally, as spring arrived, the ugly duckling discovered a beautiful lake. It marveled at its reflection in the water, realizing that it had transformed into a magnificent swan. The once ugly duckling had grown into a graceful and elegant bird, radiating beauty from within. Other swans spotted the newcomer and swam closer. They greeted the young swan warmly, inviting it to join them. The ugly duckling was astonished to find that it had found its true family, a family of swans just like itself. The swans embraced the young swan, showering it with love and acceptance. They admired its beauty and grace, celebrating its unique journey. The ugly duckling, now a stunning swan, realized that its journey of hardship had shaped it into something extraordinary. From that day forward, the swan lived happily among its new family. It flourished in its true form, surrounded by love.
Welcome to Fairyland.
The Wild Swan Story. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there were a king and a queen who had 11 sons and 1 daughter. This family had a happy and comfortable life. Children lived in luxury, but a day came when their happiness and comfort ended. The children's mother died and they were alone. The little girl was trying to fill her mother's place. She read stories to his brothers and entertained them. The brothers sat around their little sister and listened to their sister's stories. She read stories to his brothers and entertained them. Princess reading books for her brothers. Princess reading books for her brothers. After a few months, the king took another wife. A mean woman who could not see the children and mistreated the children day and night. Instead of sugar, she poured sand into their tea and gave them dry bread instead of food. She took away their comfortable room and bed and gave them a dark room instead. A room without a floor and no bed in it. After a few days, the evil queen sent the girl to a village and entrusted her to a peasant family to work there. The wicked queen sent the girl to a village and entrusted her to a peasant family to work there. Now it was the turn of the boys to get them out of the palace somehow. He thought and thought. He tried different solutions and ended up in the lap of the old witch. The old witch gave a sly laugh and said, "It's up to me. I will teach you a poem that whenever you sing, the boys will change into birds and fly away." The wicked queen was delighted. He returned to the palace and read that verse. The boys flew away in the form of white swans. Some time passed and the princess learned about the fate of her brothers. She talked to the farmer's family and asked them for permission to go to the sea to find his brothers, but the sea was on the other side of the forest and she had to pass through the forest. The princess walked. She walked in the forest for several days and nights until her legs were injured. One day, she met a woman in the forest with a basket of fruit in her hand. When the woman saw the princess, her heart burned and she gave her some fruit and then showed her the way to the sea. When the woman saw the princess, her heart burned and she gave her some fruit and then showed her the way to the sea. The princess said goodbye to the old woman and went until she reached the sea, but there was no one by the sea. The girl sat down by the sea, and suddenly her eyes fell on 11 white swan feathers. Realizing that the feathers belonged to her brothers, she collected them and held them in his hand. Now she was sure that he could find her brothers. That day until near evening, the girl sat by the sea. Near sunset, suddenly 11 white strong were found in the sky and the flyers came to the shore. When they sat on the beach, they turned into 11 young princes. The princess recognized her brothers. She ran towards them and called each one's name. The brothers were also happy to see their sister. "As long as the sun is in the sky, we are like swans," said the older brother. "When night falls, we become human. We live across the sea. A very beautiful place. It is better for you to come with us." They weaved a basket from the thin branches of trees and put their sister in it, and each of them took one side of it and flew away. The girl was happy to have found her brothers. The girl lived happily with her brothers in the forest. She always prayed that the spell of her brothers would be nullified. One night, the princess had a strange dream. An angel came to her in her dream and said to her, "If you want your brothers to be freed from this spell, you must weave clothes for them with nettle bushes. When they wear that outfit, their spell is nullified and they revert to their original form. Remember that you should not talk at all during this time." When the princess awoke, she went to the nettles and began to knit shirts for her brothers, but the nettles had poisonous stings and blistered the girl's hands. The princess worked day and night, weaving clothes from nettle bushes. He did not say anything and her brothers were surprised by this. One day, something unfortunate happened. A prince came to the forest to hunt. The princess hid in a cave, fearing that her work would be delayed, but the prince's dog found her. The prince was surprised to see such a beautiful girl and took her with him to his palace to marry her. The marriage ceremony between the prince and the princess was performed, but the girl did not stop knitting clothes. The courtiers of the palace were surprised. They were talking behind the girl's back, and because the princess couldn't say anything and explain, every day this issue became more complicated. One of the courtiers, who always and everywhere took care of the princess, went to the prince every day and said that her actions were similar to the actions of witches, but because the prince loved his wife, he did not pay attention to these words.
Basic English versus Advanced English.
How are you?
How's it going?
Let's meet today.
Let's catch up today.
I'm very hungry.
I'm starving.
I'm very busy.
I'm swamped.
I'm very tired.
I'm exhausted.
I'm very happy.
I'm over the moon.
Sorry, I fell asleep.
Sorry, I nodded off.
It is very cold outside.
It is freezing outside.
Leave me alone.
Give me a break.
Keep it a secret.
Keep it under wraps.
Good luck.
Break a leg.
Once upon a time, nestled on a hillside, just outside this a small, rustic. It was a simple dwelling, constructed of stone and surrounded by a weathered wooden fence. Within its cozy walls resided a loving couple. This couple cherished a single, fervent dream: to have a beautiful daughter to nurture and cherish. Despite their deep love for each other, they harbored a lingering doubt. Would they be worthy parents? Husband and wife living in a hut. Husband and wife living in a hut upstairs. Behind the hut, a small window overlooked a breathtaking vista. Below, a magnificent garden stretched out, a vibrant tapestry of colors. Within this enchanting space, a remarkable plant flourished, Rapunzel. Its leaves, large and emerald green, were not only beautiful, but also incredibly delicious. This idyllic garden, however, was a source of both wonder and dread. It was enclosed by a towering wall and belonged to the most wicked and powerful witch the world had ever known.
Little Red Riding Hood, a beautiful fairy tale for kids. Welcome, friends. Once upon a time there lived a little country girl, the prettiest creature who was ever seen. Her mother had a little Red Riding Hood made for her. Everybody called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Go, my dear, and see how your grandmother is doing, for I hear she has been very ill." Little Red Riding Hood set out immediately. As she was going through the wood, she met with a wolf. He asked her where she was going. "I am going to see my grandmother." "Does she live far off?" said the wolf. "It is beyond that mill you see there." It was not long before the wolf arrived at the old woman's house. He knocked at the door. Tap, tap, tap. "Who's there?" "Your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf, faking her voice. The good grandmother called out, "Pull the string, and the latch will go up." The wolf pulled the string, and the door opened, and then he immediately fell upon the good woman, and ate her up in a moment. He then shut the door and got into the grandmother's bed, expecting Little Red Riding Hood, who came some time afterwards and knocked at the door. Tap, tap, tap. "Who's there?" "It is your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood." The wolf cried out, "Pull the string, and the latch will go up." Little Red Riding Hood pulled the string, and the door opened. Big bad wolf in grandma's bed. "Grandmother, what big arms you have. All the better to hug you with, my dear." "Grandmother, what big ears you have. All the better to hear you with, my child." "Grandmother, what big eyes you have. All the better to see you with, my child." "Grandmother, what big teeth you have got. All the better to eat you up with." Fortunately, a hunter was passing near by the hut. He heard the wolf and recognized him right away. He ran over to the window. He took a good aim, and that was the end of the wolf.